broadcast is now starting.
Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy almost end of the week. Happy almost end of the month. Happy early Halloween in 2 days. Happy it's almost November. Hey, happy cup of coffee to everybody who drinks a cup of coffee. And a big, robust welcome to this episode of the PixelMill Webinar Series and today's offering of practical approaches to integrating and extending Microsoft 365 Digital Workspaces. Oh, guys, we have a great session for you guys today. As you can see, I got a couple of people with me. I'll talk about them in just a second. As always, my name is Michael Wells. I am an account manager and the partnerships and community manager here at PixelMill, and I will be your host today. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Thank you so much for joining the PixelMill webinars. We hope to keep you entertained, keep you educated, and have a little fun along the way as well. This is your second, third, 24th and a half webinar with us. Thank you so much for coming back. We love having you here. Keep coming back. We love seeing your faces. If you want to learn more about PixelMill, check us out on our socials at PixelMill Team across most of them. Go find us on YouTube. Look up PixelMill. Drop an elbow on that subscribe button. Follow us for all the great content we're putting out there. We got a lot more cool stuff coming up as well. Now, this is your first time on a webinar. Let me just give you a couple quick things here. There is a questions tab and a chat tab. If you've got a question, throw them on up there. I will be following along the entire time, and I will sneak those questions into our speakers as they come in. If for some reason I can't get to it, and right in the moment when you ask, we do try to leave a little time at the end for a Q&A. We will get to your questions, I promise you. In this webinar as well, we're going to try some fun things. There's going to be some pop-ups coming up. Hope you guys are ready for some audience interaction here. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, enough about me. Let's get to the session today. Guys, not just one, but two people, and not just two people. One's got my name too. Let's introduce him. Starting over here, he's the president and co-founder of PixelMill. He is Eric Overfield. And on the other side, he is the CEO and founder of Orchestry, Michael Pisarek. Gents, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael, for the great introduction. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Michael, for joining us as well. Michael Pisarek for joining us as well. Okay, so we are basically having conversations with clients. We're having these conversations with a lot of you. And one of the big questions we're always asked is, okay, so I have this thing I'm hearing, it's called Digital Workspace. Like, how am I supposed to integrate all my tools? What am I supposed to do to put all this together? Everything's all over the place. My fellow workers are just confused. Help. So let's dive in. Let's discuss what that's going to look like. And we're doing some fun things this time, because what I wanted to do was not just talk about from a very high level, like, hey, what's possible? How could you take these digital tools that you're using, especially in today's remote work environment, and how could you extend them so that it creates a more holistic environment and a holistic tool set? But I also wanted to show you a practicality of, you work with all these third-party tools. What does a third-party tool look like? And how can those third-party tools help us not only with productivity, but also with governance and management, all this as well? And so that's why we asked Michael to join us. He's one of the partners we work with. And so he's going to join throughout the webinar. And at the end, we're going to have him show off some of the things that you might need as well in a digital workspace and how these tools could extend with you. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's make sure everything is working great. And is everything being shared properly? No. Let's try sharing again here. All right. How about now? There we go. Perfect.
There you go.
So for those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Eric Overfield, president and co-founder of PixelMill. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director, Microsoft MVP in the Office Apps and Services space. I'm on the Microsoft 365 P&P team. Basically, I love work with the community. I love technology, and I love sharing that technology as much as possible to help see organizations be more productive. That's the passion that I have, is helping people in their day-to-day jobs so that they can just have a more productive life, because so much of our time is spent in the office. Can't we have tools that help us get the job done so it's not just slogging through it, but it's actually a lot of fun? So that's myself. You can get a hold of me at Eric Overfield or ericoverfield.com. And with that, Michael, why don't you give us a quick introduction to who you are and who it is that you work for?
Awesome, thanks, Eric. So my name is Michael Pisarek. I'm the CEO here at Orchestry Software. Just before I begin, first of all, Michael Wells, the other Michael, if this doesn't work out, I think you've got a career as maybe an organizer for UFC fight kind of promo things as well, or boxing. So I think that's an awesome thing to do. So I'm the CEO here at Orchestry. We are a new governance and adoption platform built for Microsoft 365. PixelMill is one of our awesome partners. And really, my passion is kind of the same as Eric's. I think, with so many people working, I think longer than ever and using Microsoft 365, there's a lot of opportunities there, not just to help, I think, in the out-of-the-box way to help the platform, but obviously in some other ways. And I think integration, as Eric mentioned, is a really keen point. As Microsoft 365 expands, there's more tools, there's more capabilities. If you think there's a lot of apps now, I wonder if we have the same conversation, Eric, in about 2 years, if there's going to be more apps and different apps, or 6 months, or maybe even 3 months, who knows. But really, like I said, my passion is around Microsoft 365 and Office 365. Lots of experience with SharePoint, and just super passionate about just helping organizations become really better versions of themselves using this technology. So thank you so much for having me. I'm going to dive in every now and then to offer some color commentary, but I'll hand it back over to Eric.
Excellent. Yes, definitely look forward to that. For those of you who are new to PixelMill, we work in the digital workspace area tied around Microsoft 365. So we've been actually working with Microsoft tools since '98. We've evolved with technology as the technology has continued to push us and innovate us. And right now, what we're delivering for our clients are those digital workspaces built around Microsoft 365, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, integrating that Azure component in there to help make organizations we work with more productive. So what we're trying to do in this webinar is also really show you a lot of what we're doing for our clients directly. So you're getting that for free. So you really hope you get a lot out of that. If you are looking to reach out to us though, you're looking for some help, we're always happy to talk to you. PixelMill.com, always sales@pixelmill.com. Let us know and we're happy to get started. Okay, so what we want to do here before we get started is we want audience participation. We want to ask you some questions to get thinking like, is this important? Like, is this topic really valid? And let's see what happens here. So Michael Wells, over to you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Michael. So we've got a couple questions for you guys. I know when you heard audience participation, you probably thought, oh gosh, they're going to make me dance on camera. Oh no, of course not. But we do have a couple questions we want to ask you guys. What you're about to see is there should be a pop-up on your screen, and I will read you the first question once it gets there. All right, so you should see a question on the screen. How many different digital tools do you think your employees switch between every day? A couple options on there: 5, 17, 35, 75. Make your choice and hit that submit button. We'll give you guys about 30 seconds to get that going.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
We don't get a chance to vote on this?
No, you and I don't. I know. I totally want to. What I really think is interesting here is I'm thinking through how many apps do I switch through. And by the way, we do have some answers for you as well, and they are backed by research, not just me clicking around saying, "Hey guys, I switch apps this many times a day."
No, it's interesting. I mean, if I look at the way that we run our business, I mean, there's more than 5 even in Microsoft 365, and then you look at all the other stuff that you use as well, right? Marketing tools and social tools and CRMs and any of these other tools. Yeah, no, it's fascinating. How did you guys come up with these numbers? Is there some sort of mathematical formula between the 5, 17, 35, and 75, or is this just Michael? Is it some sort of
magic?
Is that magic, right?
We went to the Sheldon Cooper Book of Math and figure out some.
There you go.
Here.
All right, guys, you haven't voted yet. 10 more seconds to get those votes in, and then we're gonna pull this. We're gonna pull this one down. A lot of good numbers coming in so far. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll share some of this here, but it's fascinating to see what you're all saying, and I don't disagree with some of the answers. I think some of you will be very surprised. You might say, "Wait, what?"
Go ahead and close this one down. All right. Okay, so let's show how you guys did. Some answers happened there. So these are the results. You picked 5. A lot of people went with 17. A few people went 35. Nobody fell for 75. Huh? All right. Good
that one was a little high. I agree with that. I don't have that many apps installed on my machine.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna go with the second question now, guys. It's gonna go right along with that one. It should pop up on your screen again in just a moment. How many times do you think they switch between these tools every day? 100, 500, 750, 1,100 times.
I'm starting to think how many times I click my mouse in a given day.
Oh man, sometimes I want to get a little tracker for my mouse just to see how many times I click on different things.
Yeah, I would say more than the amount of times I'm swapping between. I think I swap 1,100 times between tabs in a browser a day.
And imagine if you got a bonus for every time you clicked your mouse.
Yeah.
Well, that's really how productivity should be managed,
Exactly.
right? It's like the amount of mouse clicking and the amount of tab swapping. I think that'd be good. It's like managing code with how many lines of code you write, and what happens when that's the metric.
Exactly. All right, guys, 10 more seconds. Get those votes in if you haven't already. Again, a lot of good numbers coming in. Really appreciate you guys having a little fun with us right at the beginning here. Something we're going to start doing a lot more of is getting you guys involved, getting your opinions. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this down.
Sounds
and
good.
let's share those results with you guys, huh? All right, so we got a few people going with 100. Actually, the majority of you went with 100. A couple people went with 500. Second most popular was the 750, and then the least popular was the 1,100 times. So thanks, guys, for playing along. I'm sure you're all anxious to hear the results to that, and that is where I will hand back off to Eric.
All right, I think some of you are going to be a little surprised by this. And this data, it's backed up by a report by Pegasus Systems, so we didn't just make this up. So what we found is, and what's been found is that your employees are spending a lot of time and they're wasting a lot of time within their digital workspace. Okay, so what was found in this report is that you're switching between 35 different applications per day on average, over 1,100 times. Okay, my first response to that was, really? That seems like a lot. Then I started counting legitimately. I started kind of counting my mouse clicks. And I'm switching apps all the time, because what we have to think about here is context switching is switching between all of the different things that you're doing. So how they got this report was they basically studied 5 million hours of live desktop usage in organizations. So I think it's pretty well backed up. And to me, this actually starts to fit if you think about it. Like, wow, I actually do switch between a lot of different business critical apps throughout a given day. And I switch a lot. I'm switching between emails. I mean, every email, I almost always have to switch to get into my email. Every Teams message. I mean, right there, we're looking at a couple of hundred times. I'm switching between just those two apps. I then need to bring up browsers. I'm bringing up different tools for whatever. If you're thinking of how you're using Workday and you're using all these other external tools, you're going to be going into Word, into PowerPoint, into Excel, how many times you switch between all of them. It really starts to add up. All of this context switching, it's decreasing the productivity of your entire workplace. I mean, just think about the time that you're wasting in those given clicks. So the solution to this, the best solution that I could sure recommend, is creating a holistic digital workspace tool set. Putting all the tools, as many of the tools at least, together into one holistic approach so that they're all integrated. So it's easier to switch applications, or there's less switching within applications because more components are brought within a single application. And the best backbone that I can certainly find in this whole thing is the Microsoft 365 backbone. Now, I don't work for Microsoft. I don't sell their licenses. So for me, I'm looking at this as, how can I help you become more productive? And I got to say, if you look at it, who's going to be at the base layer of your digital workspace? Who's going to provide that support there? And to me, that solution there is going to be Microsoft 365. There's already so many tools within Microsoft 365. I mean, there's already over 20 applications in there. They all provide their unique value and how they work well together. I mean, like, we need these tools. We need to have things like Microsoft Teams for our communication collaboration. We need things like Planner for managing tasks. We need things like Stream for recording and using and sharing the videos. We need something like SharePoint for documents, libraries. We need all of these tools. I can't advocate to say that these tools shouldn't exist, because these are the things that help us get our job done. But when you have something like Microsoft 365 as your backbone, you're able to integrate those together more easily, plus bring in external integrations as well. So it's easier to switch to those third-party applications that Microsoft isn't able to provide. So the result of this really is about saving your organization that time, the money, and just the general headache. So on average, when Microsoft did their report, and of course it's a Microsoft report, but it's driven by some studies that they've commissioned with Forrester. They were able to find that using Microsoft 365, your E5 licenses, can generate a fairly high ROI. And that can really mean something. Okay, let's think anecdotally though, because I'm going to actually show you the ROI calculator here in a second, so you can hopefully use that for your organization if you're trying to help sell like why you should be using M365 as your backbone for your digital workspace, and not either no tool as your digital workspace primary component or some other platform here. But let's think about just like on average what we're doing. If you were able to save, I understand this is that fuzzy math, but I've got some other examples here. If you're able to save, say, 5 minutes in a given employee's day on context switching and app loading and trying to find that thing that they're trying to do, you've got 5,000 employees. If you do the quick math over a year, 261 odd business days in a given year, that's over 6 million minutes of saved time across the organization. That's over 100,000 saved hours. Okay, does that add up? Like, to me, it does. Now, what are you going to do that extra 5 minutes a day? Sure, I understand that. Are they going to be more productive? Well, let's think that through. Like, let's dive into what that would mean. If you're able to send one more email in a given day and unblock that one more boulder that could take a whole other day or even longer in order to get started, that adds up really fast. If you're able to send that one extra team message, if you're able to check that one extra box to say, I've done with this task, so someone else is notified already that they can get started on the next task, those time savings can add up. But just general context switching between applications, it takes mental time to switch between them and to have to think through, like, oh, I have to open up this other app. It's not easily at my fingertips. How do I get to it again? Those seconds of frustrations adds up. Now, a very unrelated yet related anecdote I have is I can be frugal at times, and I like my technology platforms. My last laptop, when I bought machines, I typically try to get the best of breed at that time for a really good value. I invest in it and I use it heavily. The laptop, if any of you have seen me in conferences over the last 6 years, it was the same laptop. Great laptop, 16 gigs of RAM, 17-inch hard drive. The thing weighed a ton on my back, but it delivered really good value to me. Well, as Microsoft rolled out Windows 10 and more patches got on top of it, the laptop started to slow down. And I was productive, but things would take time to happen, and I would sort of sit there for that 10 seconds while something was loaded or while something was happening, and I grew to just be more frustrated. So at the end of the day, I was just like, this is just not nice. I finally got myself a new workstation, totally fast. I don't even notice a lot of those delays anymore. Am I more productive? Because I'm absolutely saving time for sure. I'm absolutely saving that time, but am I productive? Well, I can tell you I'm a lot less frustrated. And I believe strongly that lack of frustration makes me more productive. I'm going to be more quick to reply to things. I'm going to be more quick to do some of those other tasks. I'm going to help move those boulders that are in front of our organization that much quicker. And I believe digital tools are right there at the same thing. If it's hard for me to open a tool and get to that next thing, it causes problems. Let's help bring those together into one piece, or into as few pieces possible with one primary backbone. And I think you're going to help your organization tremendously. And that's where I start to see 100,000 saved hours for an organization of 5,000 employees in a year to be very reasonable. And I think that is very valuable. I mean, think about what that time costs. It's a lot of money. Okay, so one of the things that Microsoft did was they produced a Microsoft ROI calculator, and they used data that you can research yourself and go to see how do they pull this together on what that looks like. And so that's at roi.transform.microsoft.com. So what I wanted to quickly do here was show you what that looks like. So I've already loaded up roi.transform.microsoft.com. I put in a company name. I just for data purposes here, I said, okay, well, I'm in the banking industry. I'm an enterprise business. I've got 10,000 users, and I'm based in the United States. I'm looking at the E5 license. You know, you can say, well, E3, E5, whatever, and you can say, okay, and we'll calculate my ROI. So they're going to go through and quickly calculate your ROI and produce your report. So what Microsoft's research, based on that Forrester research, is saying that within 10 months, you're going to pay off, you're going to pay back, you get that ROI back from your 365 investment. You're looking to save time, money right now, and your net present value for 10,000 users is $78 million. That's looking at that value over time. That's huge. Your total benefit could be $161 million. I believe it. That makes sense to me. Think of what if you're a 10,000 person organization, think of what your IT spend really is and what it looks like. And using a holistic tool set on what it can offer you all collected into one thing that could then be extended so that you can bring in external tools as well, add on third-party applications to help with productivity, governance, and things like that. To me, these numbers start to make sense, and they should start to move needles. If you're not in the C-suite, these are the kind of things you're going to want to be sending up to the decision makers, telling them, hey, this makes sense. The investment here is pennies compared to what it would cost if we don't do anything, or if we go with a different solution or a non-holistic approach solution. Okay, so now that we've set up sort of the problem, the solution, and I think the results you're looking for, let's go ahead and let's look at how can we then over the next 20 odd minutes kind of work through this? What's this now mean? How are you going to take this into practice? So first of all, I want to discuss the.
Just before we go here,
Yeah,
Eric, I mean, it's an interesting thing. We find, I don't know what you found. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts, but that calculator is actually super useful to help justify the cost. Because I know a lot of people, there's obviously the soft costs, but even getting some sort of monetary value, that thing from Microsoft is super beneficial. So if you're within an organization and you're asked to do some sort of cost justification around digital transformation, around teams or any of that, this is actually really, really good. I think this is incredibly valuable because it does try to put a cost on, on some of those savings. Now, of course, people are going to agree or disagree, but at least it's something. At least it's something to use there that can be really beneficial. So I think it's something that, I think for a lot of people, this is what everyone was always asking for. Remember, everyone asks us as consultants how much money we're going to save, and it's a really difficult thing to do. I really like this calculator. I think it's super well done by Microsoft and backed by research. So it's not just random numbers they're pulling out of the air.
That's what I wanted to pull up, is backed by research. So you can download the full report. You can also learn how they did this, because I hear from the C-suite all the time. I mean, prove it to me. I don't want to know that you're saving me 5 minutes a day. You need to prove it to me and show me. And what does that actually mean? And this helps you in that journey. I'm not saying this is your endpoint, but it is definitely a help starting point. Absolutely. Yeah, there used to be sessions at SharePoint Saturdays 8-10 years ago. I haven't seen them recently, which was calculating the ROI of SharePoint. And they're very valuable sessions. They're always very popular because these are things that we need to do when we're trying to sell these to our organizations, is prove to our bosses that this is the right spend to be using. And when you're asking for $1 million a year budget for your 1,000 users for M365, you're going to need to justify it. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I want to discuss, look at why I'm promoting the Microsoft 365 as your platform of choice for the backbone of your digital workspace. I'm not saying that's your end-all be-all. You're of course going to be using external tools, no problem. But why does it really work well as your backbone? Then I want to look at how are you going to integration? Like, what does this mean to integrate your digital workspace? What is that going to be, and how's that going to work? And how do you evaluate that? And then we want to give that time to Michael to be able to show you, like in practice, if you're looking at a third-party application, what does those integrations look like? How can they help you? And then also, how can it help solve a problem? In that real problem, things to me like governance. So first of all, why Microsoft 365? Well, there's 4 pillars to my 3-pillar stool here. Okay, so first of all, to me, it's all about productivity. Microsoft 365 helps address this issue that omni-channel, this multi-channel approach to digital workspace, is the new norm. We're switching between all these applications. We're switching so many times a day. Having the more applications in one thing, to me, as the base, is a really good start. If you're purchasing a tool just to be the backbone of your digital workspace, and it provides just like one, maybe a window or something, but then you need to go and purchase 20 other tools for your organization to be able to do things that are all different, that seems really weird, and that's probably not going to provide you the best ROI overall. You also get familiarity with Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365 really does evolve out of Excel, Word, PowerPoint. These are those applications we've been using for 40 years. And now it's so much more, but most likely your organization knows these tools. They're already comfortable with them. They've been evolving with the tools as well. So the tools, so many of these tools come together into a familiarity that we already understand, like that we know where things kind of should be and how things sort of work. I'm not going to get into the battle of PC versus Mac, but it's the idea of, if you take a Mac person and a PC person, they really can't use each other's platform overly well. Of course, there's going to be outliers, but for me, I don't know how to use the Mac. It's just not my thing. So when you have a holistic set of tools that all work together, that's really going to help. Microsoft 365 is extremely future-friendly. It is evolving like crazy, and Microsoft has made it clear M365 is one of their primary tool sets that they're going to be investing heavily in, and they're going to stay at and or above the industry on really any of the platforms that they're getting into. Yes, you can pigeonhole me on certain things or aren't working the way you want. Hey, that's part of evolution. But holistically, when we look at it, Microsoft is well proven through the Magic Quadrants to be at the forefront of the tool sets they offer in the digital workspace. finally, this is a huge one I really want you to consider your backbone, is security. Microsoft 365 is one of the most secure platforms out there. Microsoft is investing well over $1 billion a year, they've reported, in security and securing their platform alone. One of the anecdotes to that, like to me, they think, yeah, that's what you say. What does it mean? Some of you may have known, or you may have heard, the U.S. Department of Defense awarded Microsoft what was called the JEDI contract. It was this multi-billion-dollar contract to provide cloud services for the Department of Defense of the United States. Okay, they need to be very secure, and that was one of the key requirements. And Microsoft won out on that, and that means a lot to me. That means to me that those kind of security enhancements make it their way into Azure, they make their way into M365 and beyond. Also around security, Microsoft is in the business to sell us the services. They're not in the business to harvest who you are. That's another big thing to me. Microsoft is not scanning our emails looking to see how to send advertising to us. They're not an advertising-driven company. And that means a lot to me as well, that I trust Microsoft more, that they're going to maintain and secure my data because it's in their business interest to not let anyone else touch it. And it's not in their business ethos to then sell that information about who I am to do something else with it. And I like that. These are these really important things that I find with Microsoft 365.
Sorry, Eric. I know. By the way, I know it's odd that I like come out of the shadows and offer commentary and then jump back in. I think the security thing is something that is a little bit, I think, overlooked, but is so incredibly important. I think there's two aspects to that. So, firstly, this idea that that people at your own company can secure data better than Microsoft. Remember, we used to hear that a lot in the on-prem, that data wasn't secure within the cloud.
Yep.
I think that's definitely changed over the past few years. And like you said, you might have extraordinarily talented IT people within your organization.
Absolutely, sure.
You might have a handful of them, but then Microsoft has got 100,000 of those folks or 10,000 of those people, right, doing that. So I think that's a huge thing, and you can tell because there's been no real large breaches, from what I'm aware, of Office 365 data at all, right, anywhere. So I think
I haven't heard of it.
Haven't heard of it at all.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well, I mean, Microsoft is really in the business, like you said, of helping organizations. So it's not like a Google where they're going and harvesting your data and using it for marketing. And I'm not saying that Google and Apple and companies do that, but as a commercial entity, because it's so focused, I think, on the business space, it's a huge thing. And there's so many features. I mean, there's so many amazing security features, right, that people don't know about. The ability for me to, instead of sending a document, I send a link, and maybe I use some of the capabilities of Azure Information Protection, so I know who accessed that link and what location they're from. I just wanted to put that in there because I think it's one of those things that we take for granted, but we don't understand just how phenomenally powerful that is.
Or we don't even touch. Think compliance.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like compliance stuff. We could spend a lot of time talking about the security aspect and how it's overlooked, and I completely agree. Just the tools that are there. I'm hearing far fewer people saying we're never moving to the cloud. I mean, even the financial clients we have are absolutely looking now because they realize you cannot run data centers as secure as Microsoft runs them yourself. You cannot have that private cloud set up the way that you want, multi-geo, all that, and nearly at the cost structure they give. Absolutely. Yeah. Good. Okay, so thinking about like integration points of where we're able to integrate our tool set within the digital workspace, looking at Microsoft 365 as the background. So there's three major starting points that I would see for you on where these integrations are going to occur. So there's Office.com, which would be like your portal to Office.com, Office.com. There's Microsoft Teams, and there's SharePoints. The way that I look at like where your integrations are going to occur, where you'd be focusing, some of that comes down to where your primary launch point is going to be for your organization. Where are you going to be investing to create these integration points or to be able to spend your time to create that integration? So like if you're looking for simple out of the box, Office.com is your place to go. Minimal that you can do to integrate there, but if that's going to be the portal in your hub because you just want to be able to have something up and running quickly, Office.com is going to be your point. If you have a legacy intranet, you're building more of a portal, web-based portal, web page portal that you're using for your organization for disseminating news and whatnot. SharePoint is probably where your organization's going, or where you'd be heavily promoting and say this is your starting point, this is your home page for your organization moving forward. And so your integration points might happen there in SharePoint. If you're more of a future forward-looking company, you want to see where I definitely, and I think Michael would also agree with me, where digital workspace hubs are going to be, where the true backbones are going to be. You're going to be looking at something like Microsoft Teams because that's providing some cool stuff. And we're going to look into that. When you're thinking about your integrations and what you want to integrate, let's think about like Microsoft 365 things as well as external things. So what I mean by that is things like when you're going to want to take Planner or OneNote or Stream or Yammer, you're going to want to take these tools and not make them disparate as their own tool that's over there and you go over there, but you want them integrated into your workflow of your given day. So if you're using Planner for your task management, maybe there's specific tasks or a specific task list that you want specifically within a team, how they're working. You don't want the team to have to switch from one channel where we're working on that information in SharePoint and Teams, wherever, and then have to switch to a whole different component in order to see what their tasks are. You want to be able to integrate that ideally directly within to where the work stream is. Now, Yammer, we can go back and forth on Yammer, but I think Yammer's really good at the outer loop. It's really good at creating communities of your organization. And there's a place for that. But having to go to Yammer all of the time for all communities might not be a really good idea. Sometimes you'll want to take a piece of Yammer, i.e. a Yammer app or Yammer web part, put it into your SharePoint page, your Teams channels somewhere in Teams, so that your organization doesn't have to switch context to be able to use those other tools. External tools, things you're probably using, Salesforce, Workday, used by a lot of people, Atlassian, Jira, things like that. So those external tools, you want to bring them into your digital workspace backbone, and thinking through like where you're going to integrate is going to dictate what you can and can't do. It's much more difficult to integrate that kind of thing into Office.com, let's say, but maybe in Teams or SharePoint, it's going to be much more easier. A lot of this is going to end up being, what's your budget? How much time do you have, and how much resources can you put into building this and also maintaining it? If you want to do some deep level integration, we'll get into something like in Workplace, and you want to integrate that into a SharePoint portal, it's probably going to take a lot of work, and it's going to have to be maintained. Are you ready for that? Are you an organization of 60,000 people and you're going to be saving lots of time? Might be worth the investment. If there's 20 of you, it might be more difficult to create the deep integration you want because your organization doesn't have the ability to build that heavy of an integration point. So you may have to think through that. Okay, so some of the things I want to think about then is the options that you have available. So what actually can you do? And then we'll look at some demos of some of this put together. So one of the easy things to do is to create links within your Microsoft 365 waffle. That's, the upper left-hand corner waffle-y sign. You can actually create your own apps that are there. And effectively, those are going to be links. All right, that's not a bad point, because what that allows you to do is to include internal, external apps so that you could go to Office.com, you could go to SharePoint, let's say, and you could be working within a portal. But if you want to go to something like Workday, your organization can be taught, hey, you go into the waffle, you see it there, you click on Workday, you get redirected to them. That's not a bad thing. It can be definitely good. Now, there's some limitations, of course, and as well as, is all you're trying to do is send someone off to another application, or do you want to integrate that more into the current workspace digital workspace that they're working in? Now, within Microsoft Teams, you can do some really cool stuff within Microsoft Teams on integration points. And in general, that's handled through the Teams apps. There's lots of third-party apps. There's a lot of integrated apps that are available through Microsoft. And you can build all sorts of cool things. We've had webinars on this, and I'm going to leave some of that to Michael, because he's going to kind of show you what that could look like. Within the SharePoint space, there's a lot you could do there as well. And this could be more the traditional approach people have used with traditional portals, let's say. You can have some more structured common navigation across your organization, so that as people are working with your intranet, they're able to get to other tools within their digital workspace more quickly. Maybe you can give them context to other tools within their digital workspace. I'll show you what I'm thinking here when I say something like that, so that you don't have to switch to tools to go and see certain things. You can be in the portal and you could learn things about what's available over on Workday. You could see quickly that you might have emails pending, or you've got tasks or calendars or events that are coming up, without having to switch to the applications. So the idea here is not just linking somebody to an application, but also to bring those third-party applications, internal and external. By internal, I mean Microsoft 365 driven ones, or external, those outside services, bringing some of that data and context directly into the backbone of your digital workspace, where your employees should be spending the most amount of time. In SharePoint, this also includes things like creating extra pages for them, bringing in web parts to include this other stuff. There's just so many things that you can do here. Okay, with that, I want to get into a demo so that we can see. Whoops, that's gonna, yeah, there we go. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the browser. What I wanted to show you first of all was a mock-up that we created for a client, and what I wanted to show here in particular was taking and thinking through how could you integrate more of a digital workspace rather than just a portal. How could you take that directly into this portal so that if I was spending most of my day within the SharePoint portal, the SharePoint app, then how could I get more data on external tools without having to check my email, without having to be notified, without having to go and check those other tools to say, oh, do I have anything pending? So what I want to do here is look at the top header here. So some cool things about this, and by the way, what we're showing you here, this would be considered custom work, so it'd be custom code you'd have to build. But what we're proposing, these kind of things, this is something that I would argue is very supported by Microsoft. We mocked this up on the assumption that we're building it using Microsoft technology. So I'm not trying to show you a mock-up of something that can't be done. I believe that this could absolutely be done, and it's something that well, we're actively doing. So having context of what time of day it is, I understand it, but it's just like helps people feel more welcome. But being able to give more information so that people knows what's going on around them. So often we just want to know what the weather is like outside. Yeah, I could look outside my window, but that doesn't tell me. And to have that information here and knowing this in my portal and not having to switch to weather.com, I'm telling you, saves time. If I want to be able to switch to time zones so I know where my coworkers are and I can think through like what are they doing without having to switch those other applications can be super important. Now here's some really cool ones that I think is important. One, connecting to services like Workday, where you've got an external tool that is helping you track things, track tasks, track tickets, track whatever. Pulling that data from those third-party applications and surfacing it into the backbone of your digital workspace, Teams, SharePoint, whatever it may be. Or just creating simple links to external tools. So, if you've got SAP or some other HR portal that you've got, create that link to them so that your organization feels comfortable knowing when I need those tools, they're here in one spot. I can get to them easier. Let's look at something else. Okay, let's integrate Microsoft Direct tools. Maybe I've got things like emails. Now, many of us have tried in the past to basically rebuild Outlook.com within our portals, and I found that to be a huge disaster. But definitely being able to see within the portal that I have new mail that's pending, that's open, this can be really helpful. When I don't want to have the Office app open, I don't want to have another tab open and constantly be checking, and I don't want to have the desktop app open. By having my portal available to me through different techniques, polling or whatnot, and helping me know that I've got some unread emails to work with, I could click on that, just take them off to Outlook.com. Sure, definitely use the tools that Microsoft has, but integrate the data into a single spot can help those integrations to help make that digital workspace that much more powerful. Including things, looking at my calendar, so I don't have to look at how many more things do I have today. Often I'm asked, how many more meetings do you have today? I don't know, I'm gonna go check. But if I knew that was at my portal, already available with all of the latest news, announcements, communities, whatever it is my organization's pushing, all at one fingertip, I think that that's super cool, super powerful. Okay, how are you gonna find out what apps exist? This is gonna be super important. So this is really easy to do. If you're in SharePoint, you wanna look at SharePoint and say, hey, what's available to me? You might not have seen this. If you go to add an app, you'll probably need to be a site collection admin to do some of this stuff. Microsoft released the Microsoft Store, and they've updated this pretty heavily. You should have this already available, but you've got the Microsoft Store now, and there are all of these applications that are ready to go. Now, a lot of them are free, a lot of them aren't, but this gives you a starting point. If you want to build an integration into your digital workspace, you want to add a new tool, my suggestion, and it's in SharePoint, go to here first. Go look at the tools that are already been built. Some are free, some are not, and see what's there. I would almost always rather go with buy an existing solution or use something that a third party's built already or is out of the box within SharePoint before I go and build it myself. I'm a consultancy. I love building tools for you. I would still rather build you a more a quicker, simpler product that will deliver most of what you're looking for than always default to custom. Because hey, this is, you know, let's be as productive as we can. Okay, now within Teams, this is an easy one as well. If you go into Teams, you can go into the apps at the lower left-hand corner of the Teams app. And there are so many apps available already pre-built within Microsoft Teams. And you can see, you know, one of our favorite partners here. It's already available for you. And you should be able to look a lot of the stuff up as well. And how these apps work, which I think is cool. And we're going to get a really cool demo from Michael. But you know, when your apps are added to SharePoint, when your apps are added to Teams in this case, they can be added in different ways. And we're seeing here a personal app. So it's available to me at all times. And I can quickly go to these apps. I can see them within my digital workspace. You can also think through within Teams, integrating things like the new homepage app, which Microsoft is releasing, which allows you to basically load up your portal and bring your portal into Teams. If I can spend more of my time in the single pane of the digital workspace that Microsoft Teams provides, this is better for me. I don't have to switch all these different apps that are all right there within this one application, and I can get to all that data. And I just think that that is super cool, super powerful. I haven't even talked about Flow or Power Automate and the flows that are available. If you go to Power Automate, there are so many things you can do with your digital workspace. That's a lot of them already included in your M365 licensing. Power Apps, oh my gosh, so many cool things that you can build basically for free out of the box. If you go to Power Apps and go to Create, there are all these templates, or pre-built templates that you can add into your digital workspace today. You can then add them directly into Teams, directly into SharePoint. You can then link off to these kind of things to bring them all together into one holistic digital workspace. Okay, in interest in time, I'm going to flip back to my slides here, wherever they might be. There we go. Before we look at what Michael has to show us, what I want to do is look at the how are you going to evaluate all this stuff? What's the right solution for you? So first of all, I highly recommend looking at what's possible. Do your research to find out what people have already done via Microsoft's released out-of-the-box products, or what third-party apps are available. Those are going to be your accelerators. Also look in the open source community. The open source community, particularly through the Microsoft 365 PnP initiative, has created a lot of free components to add into SharePoint, into Teams, etc. Find out what's available. Talk to people and see what can you do more quickly out of the box than having to go and build it yourself. Always better to if you can do that. That being said, if you're going to build yourself, which definitely you need to do a lot of times, think through like, okay, so how are we going to do this? If I'm going to link to something, do I want to integrate something like Workday? Well, I need single sign-on because I don't want my users to have to keep signing in. Got it. What could you do? Can you integrate it in that way? A lot of the ways that you're going to be defining what is possible for you is going to be based on the time you've been given to spend on this. Either time that has to be launched, time that your resources that you have in front of you, your budget internally, your budget externally. Basically, is how much time do you have? How many hours can be put into this thing? What kind of budget can be spent on getting me to help deliver this kind of solution for our organization? But also think through on any of these paths, the management of these integrations and the management of these tools. So let's look at something like Teams. Like, how are you going to manage this, the digital workspace that Teams provides? How are you going to manage those collaboration spaces? How are you going to manage any integrations within SharePoint, etc.? Okay, so now you can go ahead and now you've defined what's possible. You've seen what's possible. You define the path you're going to go. You're going to have to implement this. So what's that implementation going to look like? Are you going to be building these tools internally? Are you building them externally? You're going to want to then work with those tools and iterate and refine them. The digital workspace is not going to is not going to stop evolving. Neither can you. You're going to need to keep up with those. Because what's going to happen in X years is the new Slack is going to come along, and it's going to change the way that we think of how these digital tools, how the organization should be productive. We're going to need to evolve with that, because our fellow workers are going to see those tools and go, wow, that's really cool. I'm going to go spin that up. How many of you had this happen to you? A lot of my clients have, for sure. Where that's in the Slack is an example of Slack was out there. We all kind of, well, not all of us, the department went off to Slack. They've got all this legacy stuff, And then we realized, wow, this doesn't really scale for our organization because of all these other requirements. We want a more holistic approach. We need to now move to Teams. And that makes sense now. I think Teams is a superior product, but that's a different argument, different discussion. So you're going to want to be looking at the tools that are coming out, thinking about how you can use them within your organization, and constantly be integrating and refining those. Okay, so what I really want to do now, like what I thought would be cool here, is to show you how kind of two of the things I've been talking about could come together. So one being is what I wanted to do is see like what would integrating a productivity tool look like? Like what if we had this tool that we wanted to work with, internal, external, wherever it would be, how would we integrate it in a digital workspace? And then one, if this integration could help us like manage our productivity and governance and management of the digital workspace, I thought that'd be kind of really cool. And so what we did, we've already talked about it. We've invited Michael here from Orchestra to show us sort of what that kind of thing could look like. And so with that, if available, Michael, I'm ready to hand this off to you.
Awesome, thank you.
All right.
Oh, so to which Michael? To Michael Wells or to?
To you, but while you're getting set up, Michael, a question did come in that I wanted to just throw out there real quick. What about virtual agents? That's in reference to what you were just talking about, Eric.
So virtual agents being, I can see that the technical term I normally have as virtual agent would be more like a bot or something. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, or like a virtual agent as someone working with the organization who's external. I think what you mean is the former. It's the first one, right? Or the latter.
That's what I would think. Yeah, I think virtual agents in terms of bots or some sort of robotic process automation thing going on.
So how can those help with your digital workspace? I mean, to me that I would want the virtual agents, if that's what we're talking about, the bots, the AI, I want them to be integrated with my solution as deeply as possible, like pre-integrated. I don't want to have a lot of external requirements to get them to get into my data to be able to have that AI help to help drive the productivity I can get on my digital workspace. I don't know if I'm answering the question though. It's a little vague. Can you provide me, whoever asked that question, thank you for asking, but can you provide a little more context? Like, what do you mean? What about virtual agents? What are you looking to do? Or Michael, any thoughts on how you would answer that?
No, this is one that has got me stumped as well. I mean, I think in terms of virtual agents, I guess it's some of the kind of robotic process automation capabilities that are coming out. Yeah. I'm no expert in it. I mean, I have seen it in general, and I think it's quite fascinating. This idea, so for people that don't know what it is, it's this idea that instead of integrating in through code, essentially, you could think about it, instead of integrating in different systems through code, one of the ways would be to maybe have maybe one of the ways could be to integrate something through like a chatbot. Oh, it looks like the chatbot is okay. So integrate virtual agent in a Teams chatbot, Eric. That's the piece of clarity there. So I guess you can definitely do some integration pieces through like a chatbot directly within Microsoft Teams. That's something that we've seen a lot of customers do. And I think around a specific scope, I think that's really useful from a chatbot perspective. I think the problem with chatbots is people make them too broad in nature. A chatbot to do everything doesn't really make much sense, but I don't know what you've seen, Eric, but we've seen bots in particular for really specific scenarios work really well. So like a HR bot to find out information about policies and benefits and maybe request time off works really well. Or maybe a bot that's to a specific scenario integrated within Teams. What have you seen, Eric, for a kind of integration perspective?
I think there's a lot of promise for them. I believe that my opinion when I see this is the tools that Microsoft has created for free, the technology demonstrators they sound kind of cool, but when you get into them, they're like, oh, that's interesting. That being said, like I'm not an Alexa user because when I ask a question, I've already gotten the basic data and I want more detail, more information about it, such as what time's it going to rain today? I already know it's going to rain. I want to know what time. You go ask Alexa that, and it's going to say, well, the weather today is going to be 75 with a 20% chance of rain. Like, no. So, okay. I think there's potential, though, as the bots continue to get smarter, they're going to be able to help us do more. As in, I would like to have an HR bot, which this is being built not by us at all, but there are people that are building these HR bots where I can say, what's my 401k contribution limit right now? I want to be able to ask that and have that answer come out to me. The bots are getting there, but they're extremely complex to build. So you're probably going to need to work with third parties that are going to be providing you those more complex bots. Now I think like the polybot within Teams, totally different. That's super cool. Simple way to create polls. I love it. But some of the more powerful ones, which I think are going to be super important, would be things around Workday, things around HR, things around ServiceNow. Those kind of like tasks where I've got a service request. How do I change my password? That's a good one, something that a bot could easily do. But if you want a bot to be able to help you do a little more detail on that, I think that's a little harder. I think that well, once we get back in the office, being able to have a cafeteria bot where I can place my order via a bot. Think of the time you're going to save from someone having to take that order, from me having to fill out a web form, or where I have to go and find those things. I can just quickly chat with the bot. Hey, what's on the menu today? Great, I'll have the hamburger, please. Have it ready at 12:30. To me, those bots aren't quite there yet. I think they should be, and I think they will be. And I think there's I would argue, billions of dollars being spent here, because they're going to continue to increase the productivity for all of us.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think bots at the moment work very well from a task management perspective when you're trying to execute a task. But I think too many people are trying to use them for like a knowledge management perspective. And I just don't think they're there yet, right? Like you said, like the only thing I use Alexa. Yeah, the only thing that I use Alexa for, to be honest with you, is conversions between pounds and metric system, because no one understands any of that, right? So the standard and the metric system, and then what's the time and what's the news, and then it tells me when an Amazon delivery has been there, right? I mean, if you ask it any sort of nuanced questions, it gets a little bit more difficult, right? I totally agree. So as Eric said, one of the ways that we're trying to do some integration work within Orchestry is to really tackle a few problems, but there's two ones in particular that we want to tackle. So as digital workplaces become more and more integrated, the reason I think that integration is such a hot topic is that there's just so many tools. And even if you look outside of Microsoft 365, just within Microsoft 365, I think a lot of people are shocked by just how much stuff there is in there, right? There's so many tools. A lot of those tools have overlapping capabilities. And I think really one of the main drivers behind Teams in particular, and the reason that Teams has taken off, not just from a chat perspective, but can also integrate some of these tools together. So one of the challenges that we found at Orchestry and what we're trying to solve is this kind of too many tool problem within Microsoft 365, where if I want to manage, let's say, tasks, for instance, there's multiple different ways for me to do that in M365. I can use Microsoft Lists, I can use Planner, I can use Outlook tasks, I can use SharePoint tasks. I can do that in multiple different ways. So this idea that what we try to do within Orchestry from an integration perspective is, well, how can we integrate some of these tools together? Now we call this a workspace. Think of a workspace as essentially a predefined template based on a team or a SharePoint site or a Microsoft group or a Planner plan. But really the idea that we tried to do from an integration perspective to help users answer the too many tools question, or even the what to use when question, is really around using this concept of workspaces. And I'll show you that in just a moment. And then the other thing, Eric, if you could just switch to the next slide. The other thing as well is around too many places, right? So typically, the other thing that we find is there's a lot of different places for me to perform collaboration within Microsoft 365, right? And being able to see that in a central integrated way doesn't really exist. So if I want to see where all my teams are, I have to go to Teams. If I want to see where all my Planner plans are, I have to go to Planner. If I want to see where all my SharePoint sites are, typically I have to go to SharePoint either to request those items or to view where they are. So one of the neat pieces within Orchestry that we've tried to do, and really this is really from customers, is how do we give an organization a centralized view into all of the collaborative assets they have within Microsoft 365, whether it's a team, whether it's a team site, or whether it's a communication site. But in addition to that, how do we allow organizations to categorize this content at that level? Because a frequent thing that you'll find is, particularly within teams, once you get past 20 or 30 teams within an organization, unless you have really good naming conventions and if you have really good naming policies, it becomes really difficult to understand maybe what that team is for. So one thing that we've tried to do, which is really effective, is this idea that you can attach attributes, metadata, or tags at that team or that site level. So then I can go in as a user and basically say, well, show me all of the teams or all of the team sites or all of the communication sites belonging to this case in a division. So why don't I give a bit of an overview here? So we're going to do a live swap here. So Michael Wells, I'm going to make myself the presenter here. So let's see how we go here. These live swaps are always terrifying. So let's see what's going on here. Oh, I think we're pretty good. We should see something that looks like a web browser. Well, there we go. Perfect. So let me get into this. So
You're a pro.
yeah, we've been through this before. There's always that little moment of terror between, hoping it's going to work and accidentally ending the meeting. So it's good that it came through. So a couple of things that we do. So firstly, from an integration perspective, as Eric said, we want to present our tool where users are, and they are typically in Teams. So in terms of Orchestry, we've developed it as a Teams app, and Orchestry does a number of things. But one of the main things that allows us to do is this idea of integrating various capabilities together within Microsoft 365 and presenting them in this concept of a workspace, which then users can go and then request. The other thing that Orchestry allows you to do is this concept of what we call our workspace directory feature. And this is what I was talking about previously. Now, within any Microsoft 365 environment, you're going to have a bunch of different capabilities. So you're going to have some teams, you're going to have some communication sites, you're going to have some team sites, you're going to have some groups. Currently, in the out-of-the-box way, if I want to go and see, every team that exists, I have to go to Teams, and I can see all my teams that I have here, and I can click on Join or Create a Teams, and I can see teams that exist here. But if I want to go to SharePoint, I can't go here. So typically, I would go to somewhere like office.com, for instance. Maybe I can see a list of my SharePoint sites that I frequently use through here. But then if I want to request a SharePoint site, obviously, I have to go to SharePoint itself. So I have to go to, once again, a completely different location. And this is one of the reasons I think that, I think I probably switch through browser tabs 1,100 times a day. But the idea is, depending on what I want to create, I have to go to these different areas within Microsoft 365. And of course, there's integration here between these tabs. But it's the same sort of thing. If I want to go and create a Planner plan, I have to go to Planner from here as well. If I want to go to Yammer or Teams, I have to go there. So what we've tried to do with Orchestry is say, well, let's make that process a little bit simpler. The first thing that we allow you to do is, how do we create these workspaces? And the idea with these workspaces are they're based on Teams or SharePoint, and it's a fully integrated built-out solution. So as an organization, maybe you've decided that the way you're going to manage projects is going to be through Microsoft Teams, and you've built out a project workspace template which has not only Teams-related content in terms of channels and tabs, but also bringing in some of those other capabilities. So because this is a project, obviously there needs to be some sort of task management component. So using something like Planner to be able to have a list of predefined tasks through here and a list of predefined tabs. Let me just refresh this so Planner can catch up. There we go. So we might have a list of tasks that we have related to a project. Nice thing about Planner as well, it's integrated into other tools within Microsoft 365, like To-Do and the tasks capability within Teams also. But also a big part is the idea of, well, we're using Teams, but we also want to make sure that we're leveraging some of the power of SharePoint. So integrating in SharePoint in terms of capabilities like news, like links, like pages, and some of the document management capabilities here. So what we have within Orchestry, we have a couple of what we call starter templates. These starter templates really integrate a lot of capabilities together. In this case, we're integrating in Microsoft Teams, we're integrating in SharePoint, we're integrating in Planner as well. So we're giving you the ability to show your Planner tasks in a nice timeline, and we're integrating some other capabilities here, even from Azure AD to show the person's status. So a few different capabilities. But in terms of the too many tools, what we're really trying to do with Orchestry is we don't believe that people go to Teams or they go to M365 to create communication sites, team sites, and teams. These are just vehicles. What they're really trying to do is to do work, right? So how do I, as a user, perform a particular type of process? So within Orchestry, you have this concept of workspaces. Think of a workspace as a predefined solution with governance on top. And what we have here is we have a way to manage projects. We have a way to develop products. We have a way to initiate or to work on initiatives. And once again, the nice thing about this is, as a user, I don't have to go to SharePoint. I don't have to go to Teams. I can kind of go through this entire process. And as we step users through the process of using Orchestry, we help them create that workspace, giving them the ability also to integrate all of these capabilities together. So if I choose, let's say, the Contoso project workspace here, not only do I have now the option of choosing this workspace as a template, but I have the option of customizing this workspace as well, which is really powerful. So maybe from a project perspective, we have a couple of document templates here, which is obviously from SharePoint, but we might want to also choose from a range of predefined templates that we've made available. Now we're combining the power of Teams, the power of SharePoint and some of those document management capabilities there as well. And we also have this idea of features. So this idea in Orchestra that features could be any type of customization. It could be lists, it could be libraries, it could be web parts, it could be tabs. It could even be something like Eric was saying, maybe there's a capability that you've written as an SPFX web part that you want to provide in here. But that level of abstraction that we provide allows people to say, well, I want to have this Twitter feature and this Yammer feature as part of my workspace. And what we'll do in Orchestra is we'll provision that on behalf of people also. So once again, the whole way that we try to approach this integration piece is really to make it simpler and to really abstract some of those underlying Microsoft 365 pieces and make it really, really simple for users to go and request these items through here also. So as we move through this process, very, very quick and easy. I can enter in the name of my workspace. Some of the things that we do here really is to help users through that process. And the big thing that we've found, as we have this very self-service model, this idea that people are creating teams and creating sites and we're allowing them, you often find sprawl happens. And the reason that sprawl really occurs is because from the perspective of an end user, you're creating teams or sites that might already exist. What we're doing here is we're helping users through that process really by integrating some of the data coming from Teams, some of the data coming from SharePoint, and we're saying, hey, before you create something that already looks like something that exists, you might want to go and take a look at this existing piece of content. So this can get super, super powerful and super easy as well. But the other side, from the integration perspective, that kind of solves the too many tools kind of issue, right? Or what to use when, because once again, users can just choose from a series of workspaces that have been predefined for them. But the other part is really around the directory. So how do we provide users with an experience that they can go and they can see everything that exists within their environment in one central location? So a couple of things that we do here at Orchestra, which we find is really, really powerful. So the first thing that you can do is show not just your teams, but everything that you have within your environment. So if I want to see all of the teams, I just click on this. If I want to see all of the team sites, I can just click on this. If I want to see all of the communication sites, I can just click on this as well. So very simple, very easy for me as a user to be able to discover all of the collaborative assets that I have within my organization. Of course, I can go and search as well. So if I want to search for a workspace through here, we'll go and tell you what exists as well. But the big thing as well is it's good searching, but one of the main things you might want to do is filter. So the ability for us to add metadata at that team or that site level really allows you to organize all of your content, whether it's team site, a communication site, a group, or a Microsoft team, and really provides a level of integration. Because as an end user now, I can quickly go into here and say, I want to see everything for manufacturing, research, and development. Here's all of the content, regardless if it's a team or a SharePoint site or even a communication site, but just show me all of the teams related to these two divisions or all of the team sites or all of the communication sites here. This can be extremely powerful to help users understand the type of content that they have here and obviously to organize this content as well. And the nice thing with our tool is, of course, it doesn't have to be division. You can have whatever you want through here. So maybe it's department, maybe it's work stream. We work with a lot of law firms at the moment. They have something like Matter or Client ID. But this idea that, once again, organizing everything across your environment and integrating everything together from a single pane. And then just the last piece before I hand it back to Eric as well, how do we maybe integrate things in the context of a team as well? And Eric mentioned this briefly, this idea that within Microsoft Teams, there's a few extension points. And we kind of showed one of those extension points already through our project home. So one of the extension points that we use is SharePoint Effects. If we just go here. So this is a web part, like I said, called the Project Timeline web part. Essentially what this web part does is it integrates planner tasks and it shows them through here. So this is one integration point, once again, bringing planner through. But the other one on a Teams perspective is what we have in Orchestra called this Teams Information tab. And once again, the idea with this is to bring some of these various pieces of M365 together to make it easier for users to understand exactly what is in a team, who the members are of a team, any additional metadata you've added at this team, the privacy. But what I really like as well is this really kind of shows your end users what exactly is part of this group. Because I think And Eric, I'm sure you'll agree with me that the concept between groups and teams can be a little bit dicey. So this idea that we're showing users, as part of this team, you also get all of this other stuff, right? And you can get access to all of this other stuff really, really quickly and really simply as well. The reason I really like this tab, just personally, is that if I want to get to the SharePoint site, I don't have to do what I always did before, where everyone goes to Files, you got to wait for this thing to load, and then you click on Open in SharePoint, and then you click on the homepage, right? That tends to drive people pretty crazy. What I really do like about this approach, what we've done here, is once again, I can just get to the SharePoint site directly from here, or to the document library, or even to the planner plans, or directly to any OneNote notebooks that you have through here. So a couple of different types of examples of integration. Obviously, we do much more at Orchestry, but I think this is a good example of some of the possibilities that the M365 platform does offer. Eric, I'll hand it
Excellent.
back over
Yes.
to you.
Okay, so there's so many good questions coming in. We really want to get to this stuff. All right, let me go ahead and switch back to myself. And okay. Excellent. Yeah, yes, definitely, Michael. A super cool product. So first of all, for all of you joining us, I wanted to show you a really cool product. That was cool. But two, what I'm hoping to get out of this is seeing how these third-party integrations can pull together other tools within your digital workspace to help increase productivity just by having more things in a single spot. So it's easier to do, because those 35 apps we're using, we're still going to use them throughout the day. Just let's make them easier to manage. Let's make them all more available, and let's go from there. Okay, so I'm going to kind of skip the review because you've got it in front of you. Remember what we talked about. I want to get to the questions. Michael Wells, a lot of good questions coming in. Please go ahead. We've got 8 minutes here. I want to get to as many as we can.
Oh, it's that time, guys. It's that time for some Q&A. America's favorite time in the PixelMill Webinar Series. I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, really great questions coming in. Real quick, both of you gents, thank you so much for you guys have been presenting today. This is really awesome stuff. I'm so lucky to have you guys here. So let's start with, sorry, just trying to get those questions up here. Here we go. Any good tips on figuring out which tools to integrate?
Any good tips on which tools to integrate? Okay, this could take a long time, but I'll try to keep it quick from my perspective. So first of all, I'd be looking at what are the tools my organization is using the most, and I'm going to find that out by asking them, what are you doing in your given workday? Like what's your job and what do you need to do? And seeing them, getting an idea of what they're doing. What I don't want you to ask is, hey team, what do you need? No one knows what they need. So you need to watch what your organization's using, see the tools that you currently have, try to get an inventory of the tools and find out how often people are using the tools. In a sense, you're trying to get an idea without asking them what do you want, what is it that they really need? Because they just don't know. Okay, so from there, the productivity tools would be the ones that they're using the most, obviously. I think that's pretty easy. What integrates the easiest would be the ones that I would probably knock off near the top of the list. Again, a popular tool, I keep going back to it, Workday, SAP. These are popular tools that people need. They're not overly easy to integrate at the level you may want. And do you want to invest that kind of budget on that one tool when maybe you can get 10 out of the way first? Maybe get get Microsoft 365 together and then work on some of those bigger boulders or intermediate steps. How can I make sure that it's easy to get to Workday from Teams, from my portal, yet not have the integration that I want yet just because we can't budget it in this calendar year, this quarter? Michael, you've got thoughts probably?
Yeah, I think it's the same. I mean, I think from an integration perspective, it can get costly really quick, right? So I think there's a few levels of integration that you can look at. So even something as having a link, like Eric said, from your intranet or from your digital workplace to one of these third-party tools can be super, super beneficial. When you start looking at integration between, Eric mentioned them, Workday, SAP, Salesforce, ServiceNow is another huge one, right? I know a lot of organizations use for ticketing. True integration with those systems can be a little bit tricky, but they can also save an incredible amount of time and really be a great driver of adoption. In terms of which tools, I would say the same thing as Eric. I also like to look at it from a task perspective. Right? So what are the tasks that people are performing the most and what's actually going to provide you value? And then map those tasks to the types of tools that might be best suited to them and then go from there as well.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Really good question from Joel I want asked. Do you see that one, Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to save that one for just a little bit. We'll come back to that one.
Okay.
I want to.
Joel, we're going to get to you. I love your question.
I really quickly want to say, guys, in the handouts tab of your GoToWebinar either screen, or if you have the desktop app, there's a little control panel. There's a handout section. I've dropped a file in there. It's a document to tell you a little bit more about Orchestry and what they do. It talks a little bit about PixelMill, but and then it's going to talk about our partnership and what we can offer, what we do, and how we work together. So feel free to grab that one while it's up there. I'm going to leave it up till the end of the session, but please make sure you grab that document while it's up there. And then speaking of which, Michael, if someone was interested to learn more about Orchestry or wanted to get a demo or anything, what could they do? Where should they go? Give us a little rundown of that.
Yeah, just go to orchestry.com or just reach out to PixelMill as well, which would probably be the better approach, so that we can definitely organize something for you. But yeah, definitely either way, and we'll get you in touch with the PixelMill folks and with us as well. We always like speaking to people, seeing what those challenges are. It helps us build a better product. So if you are interested, either us or PixelMill, and we'll be more than happy to help.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, I'm going to give Eric his wish, and we're going to get into this question. Given recent Microsoft outages, isn't there some risk in putting all your eggs in that basket?
Yeah, okay.
You guys have 3 minutes to answer this question.
Yeah, so this one, I think it's an important question to be asking for the organization, or you might be challenged on this one. So we're speaking here in the, late October of 2020 timeframe, and Microsoft had an AAD outage, a couple weeks ago, a month ago, I'm forgetting now, and it went offline for about a day, and no, it wasn't a day, but it felt like a long time depending on the time zone. And I think there was another outage within Teams that lasted just a little bit. Okay, so the cloud is interesting. If you think through you're trusting a lot of the digital tools in these third parties. They have SLAs that they're doing a really good job to meet. That's like 99.9% uptime. 99.9% is pretty good, but if you do the math, that still is some time where it's going to go down, and infrastructures do go down. I would argue that with Microsoft going down for those hours, which was frustrating, I get it. It was tough for me as well. Our organization was on hold for a little bit that day. I just think that those outages, if you look over a longer period of time, you're going to find that your infrastructure went down more. Trying to put all your eggs in one basket, well, I'm going to say that, yeah, you're probably going to be working with specific tools, but to be able to have the core of Microsoft 365, that being Teams, that being Outlook, that being SharePoint, etc., then I would suggest you utilize OneDrive really well, or SharePoint Sync really well, so that a lot of your files are stored offline as well. They can sync up when things get back online, so you're not fully shut offline. So I get why you're asking the question, but I still would argue that over a longer period of time, you're going to find the cloud is much more reliable. Shoot, my internet has gone down more often than Teams by a lot, so I don't even have internet. In fact, those of you who joined us 2 months ago, most of my team was offline. We had to move our webinar last month because we lost internet in all of Northern California, well, not all of Northern California, a bunch of California, because someone dug up the fiber line. So I get it. That being said, if I had my data, I would be looking at trying to store my data in more than one platform. I don't think that Microsoft is going to go offline anytime soon, but if all my data was only in their spot, okay, I might be a little more concerned. I'd like it offline. I'd like it on people's laptops. I would like to have more access to some of the data. Sorry, Michael, I sucked up all your time. Do you have anything to add there?
No, I'm the same. I mean, I just don't think. I think it's a big fallacy that people think they can create an infrastructure that's going to have a better uptime than what Microsoft provides, right? I think there's definitely use cases, and you might have some data, but I think, yeah, in the long run, exactly like you said, there's no point competing. If it's data, like I said, it's very specific. You might want to have it across multiple different areas. But no, I agree with what you said.
Much more succinct, yeah. As a side point, like when I look at the Jedi contract, went to one vendor. Now I think that was dumb. I think if you have billions of dollars a year to spend, you might want to split between multiple platforms. I kind of get that. I understand that, but for most of our digital workspace, no. Overall, I feel so much better having my data over at Microsoft 365 than anywhere else, including in my own server somewhere. So, All right, I think we're gonna have to save other questions for the end. Before Michael Wells, you and Michael Pizarek, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate everyone else joining us. This was a lot of fun for me. I look forward to next time. Michael Wells, back to you.
Hey, thank you, Eric. And yes, and thank you, more important Michael than me, for being here today. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. Thank you for everything you've added to this. Eric, as always, great to have you here. Great session, gents. Really appreciate that. Hey, if you guys want to learn more, if you guys want to keep track of what we're all doing, you can find PixelMill, PixelMill.com, at PixelMill Team. Like I said, on all socials, find us on YouTube. Look up PixelMill. We're always trying to put out a lot of really great content and keep you guys entertained, and all that. Like Michael said, you can find Orchestry, orchestry.com. I believe I think on socials it's Orchestry Systems or
Orchestry Soft. Just look up Orchestry. Look at Orchestry and you'll
Thank you. Thank you for that. And then real quick, our next session, guys, if you couldn't get enough of Michael and Eric, they're coming back next month. And by next month, I mean December 3rd is our next session. Hindsight's 2020, how to clean up Microsoft Teams after the rush to remote work. Hey guys, if I'm sure you've all seen 2020 threw out some pretty great curveballs for us all, and there was a big rush to get set up for remote work. What we're going to talk about is you're not alone. Have no fear. As they say, hindsight's 2020, and so we're going to look back at what we've learned, and we're going to talk about getting you set up to go forward. That's going to be the next one. We'll be sending out more information. That's all from me. Guys, thank you so much, Michael, Eric, for joining us again. Everyone who's still here, thank you so much for joining us today, for spending your Thursday with us. Have a great rest of your day. Happy early Halloween, and we will see you guys down the road. Take it easy, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.